Okay, well, I'm waiting for everyone to come in before I play the intro. I think this one video will spread. And I've been thinking a lot about the last interview and all these interviews I've been doing, and I just wrote something small. I grew up for a period on caravan parks and, different houses and stuff. And I've been traveling a lot in my life, just around Australia. And wherever you go, I heard this glorious term that was so full of strength. And it was just, she'll be right. But, well, she'll be right, mate. But at the moment, no, she won't. But she could be. We could get back to that statement. That statement could be a destination that we want to reach. We've been taken in another direction. I don't think we want to go. That destination of being able to look at each other and go, she'll be right, and mean it, is somewhere we could reach. But we can't just reach it by saying it. We can only reach it if we do the work. That means when we say it, we mean it. And the only way I think to reach that is we all have to, and I've tried to write this down, is that the majority of us have to value one goal, and that is we want to be a good people. Because once again, that we are a good people, we have empathy, kindness, we care for each other, decent, and we call out things that are wrong. Once I think we reach there, then we'll be able to say, once again, she'll be right, mate. And we'll be somewhere good again. Okay, let's go. When I was in Yas, Rita told me about a story I should reach out to, that needs to be told. And that's the story we're going to tell tonight. And we contacted Gail to see if she wanted to speak, and she does. And so let's get into it. I know she's nervous, so without further ado, I welcome Gail Roberts to the show. Hello,
Thank you.
Gail.
Hi.
Now, I'm just going to start straight in, and I just want to say first, well, it's like everyone's going to be saying at the end that we're all sorry for your loss, and so I just want to bring up here. This is, and tell us something about your daughter. This is Rachel Douglas.
It is. And
First off, how many children do you have?
I have 5.
5.
And
Are these all of them?
yes, 5, and that's certainly enough. We've got many, many grandchildren. After a second marriage, yes, there she is with her beloved dogs. 22 grandchildren at the last count. So it's a big family, big, happy, supportive family. So
Wow.
but allowed.
And where in the number was she?
Rachel was the eldest, the smallest. She's a tiny little dynamo, and she was the head of the children. And as I said, I'm the mother of the loud family. I gave birth to 5 extroverts, and so when we get together, it's quite a noisy affair. But luckily, we've had some really lovely, quiet people join the family, so they've evened things out a bit. So
the extroverts have married introverts.
That's right. Not everyone can dance on the table. So Yes, Rachel was generous, warm, um, very conscientious, and reliable. She liked to do the right thing.
Can
So,
I ask, going back a bit further, just not sorry to interrupt you, but
Mhm.
what was she like as a little girl? I know the first child usually gets it lucky because they get all the photographs. I'm taking
Exactly
that.
right. Yeah,
I reckon the fifth child probably doesn't have any, maybe one, two. When
that's
did I
right.
first walk? Well, I don't know. But the first
Yeah,
child is,
he's the
yeah,
golden child. Yeah, quite often,
yes,
and
right,
they turn out to be responsible in the end. But yeah, they do get a lot of attention. Maybe that's why. But
yeah.
yeah, she was she took her role as big sister um, seriously, but she could trick and manipulate Luke till he was about 4, and then he then he learned how to some of the tricks. Um, but yeah, she's a wonderful daughter, mother, sister, and
How was she in school?
she was she did well. She achieved well, and she enjoyed school, and she kicked over the traces a bit as a teenager, but don't we all? And yeah, she was lucky in that she found her soulmate early and married him, and they went on to have two lovely daughters. Um, but
How
she
early is
was
early?
well, I think she was in her 20s, but that's sort of
Wow.
early these days, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, so um, she was a bit more of a force of nature, despite her tiny size. She could be. She still had a big enough voice to hold her own. In fact, it was a bit of a joke just how forceful she could be. Um,
Oh,
but
what did she do? What was her
she
job? Did
was
she?
she was a medical typist, and quite valued quite highly by all of her employers. She was very good at her job, liked to do everything perfectly. Um, and so, yeah, had a blessed life, really. She had very good health all of her life up until near the end, which was a blessing. And she enjoyed just walking, playing sport when she was a bit younger. Loved her animals. They always had dogs. And so the outdoors were a big thing for her. And the girls, she took the whole family bushwalking and was getting a bit more adventurous about that as she got older. She was wanting to, test herself a bit. So fitness was very important to her.
When you say the whole family, you're talking about just her immediate family, or she took your 22 grandkids and the whole drive with you?
Not quite all the grandkids, but yeah, no, we'd go for big bushwalks as a family, and um, yes, we quite often go on holidays together as a family. So it was
What,
we
all
all
of you?
yeah we
Where
just
would you
tended.
go?
We used to go down to the south coast. We had about 6 or 7 years where we all gathered down at Mandini cabins near Marimbula. And yeah, we just did all the sort of stuff you do down there, stayed in little wood cabins and, played tennis badly and had a go at golf. It was all about golf down there. The kids all had a fantastic time. And yeah, we're just very
That's
relaxing.
that's amazing though. 22. I mean, I know they're probably all the grandkids there, but 22 grandkids. This in-laws.
At that
You don't
stage.
hear it. I'm from a little family. There's so it's a big
Yeah.
family. It must be quite extraordinary. You know.
I must say that was actually from we added on a few from the second marriage. Originally, um, there was 12. So 12
Well,
grandkids. But yeah, so it was a bit more manageable with that number, but lots of fun in the outdoors. Um, and
so
yeah,
before COVID hit, she was working in this medical world.
yes, yeah, she was like a stenographer. She'd just type all the doctor's letters and um, just do other sort of office work, but she really enjoyed it. She was always happy in her job. And like I said, she was valued by her employer. She did it well, and I think her perfectionist nature was good for that sort of job.
And what was her views towards the vaccination or the jab? Did she have any qualms taking it, or was she concerned at all?
Not at all. In fact, there were a few robust discussions in the family about whether to take it or not, and her brother Luke was dead against it, and he ended up not having it. But Rachel always felt that was the right thing to do. We'd been promised, a good product, and we were being told that it was good for Australia in general, and so as part of her nature was trying to do the right thing. She was keen to get it done, and encouraged her daughters to have it. So so she had no qualms about it, because she trusted the government and the medical system. So, as we all have in the past. Yeah.
She would have had no choice either with the job she was in either. That would have been pretty well mandated as well, wouldn't it?
I suppose
didn't
so.
They have the mandates in Canberra?
Yeah, depending on the doctor's office, I think. But yeah, probably. But she was going to have it anyway, I think. So she didn't have to be pushed to do it.
Okay. So was it the first one that affected her, or second, or third? Which one was it?
It was the second one.
So the first one was fine?
Yeah, no problem at all. The second Pfizer shot, she had, I think it was about the 12th of August, 2021. And that seemed to be okay too for the first 2 weeks, but about a fortnight later, she started getting very severe tinnitus, very intrusive tinnitus. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's
Yeah.
really
ringing in the ears.
It can be just a gentle ringing or a shushing sound, but it can also be a terrible screeching sound. And in fact, Rachel, apparently on the net, there's you get a little, one of those little information pieces that you could get, and it actually had all the different sounds of tinnitus that you can suffer from. And so other people could hear what it was like, and hers was an Omo cloud, awful level. So that was very distressing for her, and that was the beginning of a plethora of symptoms that she eventually suffered from. But she struggled with that a lot, and started not being able to.
Did it just start from somewhere? Did it just like 1 minute she didn't have it, the next minute she did, or did it start like lightly and then get louder?
No, it started quite brutally, I think. It was loud and disruptive. And in fact, we all did a bit of reading after that just to try and help Rachel, find some sort of remedy for it. And I read a story about a doctor who was driving and suddenly felt like someone had blown a trumpet in his ear, and he almost crashed the car. It was that sudden, the onset. So yeah, it sounds a bit like a benign sort of thing, but can be quite awful. So for poor Rach, go on.
Sorry, but it is a common symptom. Just because I've interviewed a lot of people are saying they're having it. This is Robin from Perth, and they're saying, I'm not saying Perth, but I was just thinking about it today. My friend, after a second jab, had that. The doctor told her it was normal, it will go away, and made no connection to the jab. So what did the doctors say to her? She worked with doctors. Did they have any explanation or any remedies?
Not really. And there doesn't seem to be any particular remedy either. You've just got to try lots of different, what do you call them, modalities, therapy, just to try whatever and find what works. Sometimes you can wear headphones and have soothing sounds, or I think some people find it a lot better if there is a background sound all the time, sort of crickets or something. So you're sort of out there on your own, just trying to find what works for you. There's no cure as such, and so I think that was a bit daunting for her to know that there was not necessarily a cure for her awful one.
And did it keep her awake at night? Was it affecting it? Did it switch off at night, or was she struggling to sleep with it?
Yeah, she was, and it was the start of her insomnia. That was another symptom that was quite bad for her, quite serious for her. She ultimately, it was the start of many symptoms. That's the thing. She got the tinnitus, but she also started getting a few neurological symptoms as well. She was getting burning sensations up and down her arms and legs, which were fairly mild, but just a bit worrying because there didn't seem to be any particular cause. So, and she was going to the doctors asking what they might be, and intimating that they all started after the jab. And of course, well, not of course, but she was dismissed, and doctors inferred that she was sort of maybe a bit neurotic or suffering from anxiety, and that it started then. And
Can I just ask?
mm.
Sorry to keep interrupting. Can I just ask? Was she someone that suffered from anxiety? Like, was she high strung? The only reason I ask is so many doctors just tell people this. I've heard it all over the country.
It's pretty common, I think. No, she'd never had anxiety as such. She'd had a panic attack, when she was a teenager, but that was because her father, who was a pilot, took her for a joy flight and dipped his wing quite severely without warning. I think while he was taking a look at the house, he was showing in the house, and she freaked out and thought she was going to fall out of the plane, and she suffered quite badly from panic attacks for the next year. But as far as I know, that was the only issues she had, sort of mental health wise. She wasn't a depressive, anxiety ridden person at all previously. She was pretty robust, I think, mentally.
Can you remember? Have you travelled Australia at all? There's a
Yes.
place called Coral Bay near Exmouth, and I was there with my first wife, and there was a little plane, and I was about 27, and there was a woman there who was about 80, and she was going up, and I said, I'll come up, because I was thinking I'm going to be fine in the plane. And my wife and I were in the back. I was literally having panic attacks. I was terrified. The old lady in the front was enjoying it, going, oh, look at the shark. And I was at the back going, because everything was rattling, and the guy was going like this, and when it went off, So I totally relate to the panic attack. Yeah, the thing, and I do find it very condescending of doctors that they do say this, and they've said it to so many. I know they used to say it to Sally, who we used to interview, who had quite a severe adverse reaction near colic, and it's interesting that they do it. So, but anyway, what other symptoms did she have?
Well, as time went on, she was starting to struggle with quite a few. She had an onset of quite a plethora of symptoms, which were a bit confusing. And even she started to be referred to specialists because the GP sort of ran out of ideas of how to help her. So he referred her on to a neurologist who was actually interested to hear that she felt that these symptoms had been initially brought on by the jab, and was helpful and listened and said and wanted to put in a report to the TGA. And then she was going to go back and see him, I think, a month later. And then when she did go back, he dismissed the idea of the jab being connected at all, and was pretty unhelpful about the whole thing. So he changed his attitude to her. It was a 180 from what he'd originally sort of been interested in, and was going to take it further, but that didn't happen.
How'd she take that? That would have been hard to take.
It was devastating for her because she was feeling a bit left out on a limb because her symptoms were confusing. I think for the doctor she was talking to, she started getting all sorts of neurological symptoms, and also a bit of dysautonomia, which is when your body systems that are automatic, like breathing and temperature regulation and that sort of thing, becomes disturbed and not working properly. She started getting numbness in her arms and hands and feet, and she stopped sweating, and her feet and legs were cold for no reason, when it was very warm. So just all of this worrying symptoms, which the doctors really couldn't explain. And so she started to get really frightened because, for a start, she'd seen that one neurologist, but then there weren't very many opportunities to see specialists because at that stage, for a start, when she started to feel really anxious and a bit paranoid about all of her symptoms, it was suggested maybe she'd like to see a psychiatrist, but the wait for a psychiatrist at that stage was like the quickest time you could see one was 13 months away. So it was just impossible. And so she was feeling.
She didn't need a psychiatrist.
No, she didn't. But
she's saying here, just from what you've said. Sorry to keep interrupting. Just going on what you've said about her, how she was like to be a perfectionist and was very forceful. So it sounds to me like she's someone who valued being respected. And so to have doctors treating her like she's an nincompoop and her symptoms are real, that must have had quite a profound effect, especially as the symptoms are getting worse and they're just treating her like, oh, you're just this silly woman.
You a bit neurotic, perhaps, just that it's unhelpful stuff like that. And it was devastating because she was feeling deserted by the medical profession in that they couldn't be. She couldn't reach the help that she wanted because they weren't available. But the doctors she did get to see were quite dismissive in general. So it increased her anxiety. So she did become very unwell. She got and she couldn't sleep. I think at one stage for 3 weeks she could barely sleep, and she took a massive amount of weight off, 14 kilos or something. So she was tiny. Well, she was always nicely rounded, but she became a little shred because it was just the stress and the anxiety just took all the weight off. She couldn't eat well. She was completely miserable, and for her, life started to become unbearable. She was someone who cherished life and health, and it's starting to become. She was starting to think she's not going to make it as early as the January of the next year. So that was like 5 months after she had the jab. She was starting to feel like she wasn't going to make it. She told her best friend that.
So 5 months after, it wasn't getting better at all.
It was getting far, far worse, yeah, and with no hope of any treatment. That was the problem. The medical fraternity couldn't seem to offer any treatment, and
but they couldn't even believe her. They couldn't even give the respect of going, we can't fix this, but we can document it, we can listen, we can help you explore some things. But instead, she's losing all that weight. She's obviously getting more and more unwell, and they're dismissing her. I
That's
mean,
right.
that's the
It was, yeah. It was devastating for her, and she felt that it was on her shoulders, the burden of trying to find treatment. So she did a lot of research on her own, which can lead you down lots of awful rabbit holes of unwellness. So it's not always a good idea, but she felt that that's all she
what else
had.
could she do?
That's right. So
What else could
she,
she
yeah, it made things worse, I think. And she did find an integrative specialist that she would have liked to go to, and she booked in for September 2022. That was the first appointment, and she never made that. But yeah, she told her best friend that she thought she was dying in January, and became quite suicidal in her thoughts.
She talked
She
about that with you?
she did. She was quite open about it, um, and in fact, it completely overtook her consciousness. Basically, she just felt this as she
She couldn't
couldn't
see any other way out.
she couldn't think of a way out, and she couldn't get treatment, and she just felt, and she started to,
Can I say, did she feel abandoned? I mean, she used to work in the medical world, the medical establishment.
yes, she
Is that what
did.
you're saying?
Yeah, her employers were wonderful. They were very supportive. They couldn't have been better about giving her
Oh, good.
leave and encouraging her to come back in any fashion that she wanted to. But they didn't have any answers either. They weren't the sort of specialists that um, I think she felt would be handling the symptoms that she had. And she just, about this time, she just quit her job, and she cancelled a long-awaited holiday to Noosa, because she just thought the end was nigh, and she sort of shocked us by saying, I won't be there for this, and I won't be there for that, and we're all thinking, surely she really did think she was dying, and so we realised just how serious it was all getting, and we were getting some specialist supplements. Oh, and she became paranoid then about taking any medication, because she felt one of the doctors suggested she was depressed, and so she was persuaded to take an antidepressant, and she felt that made things worse, made all of her symptoms worse. So that it didn't help at all. In fact, it did make her worse mentally. I don't know how it actually affected her physically, but it didn't seem to have any effect.
How are you
And,
coping at this point up to here? Were you
well, it
close?
was
Were you too close?
very close. Yeah, the family was very close. All of us were all involved in trying to help her, and she felt she was losing her higher. She lost her ability and higher function. Um, she was struggling to even cook a meal, because she was starting to feel she had a brain injury. A lot of people who've had the jab complain of brain fog, and I think people with long COVID have sort of similar symptoms. But she was talking about a brain injury, not just sort of fuzziness. And in fact,
Well, her breathing wasn't working. I mean, this is all if her breathing wasn't working automatically, this is all controlled by the brain. So she had a point.
it is, yeah. It wasn't her breathing so much, but she was, yeah, other things weren't working properly, and it was very frightening. It was, and not having any clear treatment path either. No one was offering her anything. And I was doing some reading about a long COVID clinic in Melbourne sort of early on, and I was struck by how similar Rachel's symptoms were to the people who are starting to suffer from long COVID. And I said, maybe, you know, I suggested it to her and thought, well, maybe they could help. But apparently the doctors are still struggling with the whole long COVID situation. There's still no definitive treatment. They're still not knowing what's causing it. But it was interesting that Rachel had all the same symptoms as long COVID after the jab, and she'd never had COVID. I mean, she did actually catch COVID about 2 weeks before she died, but so there was no infection that triggered the long COVID, but she'd had the jab. So
Did she
you know,
believe it was the jab?
I think she did. I mean, she concentrated more on the antidepressant. She blamed that because she had quite a big resurgence of her or exacerbation of her symptoms after she had the antidepressant. So then it was a huge battle to get her to take anything. We got all these beautiful organic supplements from her from a nice chemist up in Queensland. But, you know, you'd see her sitting there trying to swallow stuff, but it was like poison. She just didn't believe in anything then. She lost faith in medicines, doctors, even these ones, which couldn't have been safer, you would have thought. You know, they were just but she just she lost faith, and it was hard for her to swallow anything after that. So that complicated any sort of treatment anyway. Just her reluctance then to take anything, and that's, I think, when she sort of lost hope, and she became so focused on suicide that I went and stayed with her and her husband, who was wonderful. He couldn't have been a bigger rock for Rachel. But, you know, he'd stay awake all night with her as she was expressing herself all the time. And I don't know that depressed people do that. She was letting us know how she was feeling, but to the stage where it was exhausting. You know, she just couldn't stop, basically. She was sort of, I think, my daughter was
Fighting.
in this, yeah.
She was fighting.
She was, yeah, and she just was wholly possessed by how her body wasn't working properly. And like I said, it was a terrible worry for her to think she'd lost her higher function, like not being able to even plan and cook a simple meal. But the thing that made it a bit harder, I think, for people to believe that she had a brain injury, which became her firm belief from about February or March, that she didn't have depression, she had a brain injury, was that she could always articulate. She could remember being able to do all of this stuff, but she could express it. She never lost the ability to speak and express what was happening. But then she couldn't do the meal. I mean, she couldn't perform the action, even though she could still express herself well. So I think that made it harder for the doctors to try and diagnose her, because she was actually eventually admitted to the mental health unit because she was becoming a danger to herself. She was so anxious and scared and panicked, and I think she was probably becoming depressed because there was no help coming. So she was
Talk
admitted.
about depression, though, like, oh, that's an illness. I mean, surely depression under those circumstances is just a natural reaction. You're going to feel down. I mean, it's not like another condition. Oh, now I've got depression. Where did I get that from? It's everything you're telling me. Why wouldn't you be depressed? You know, especially if she's been healthy all her life, went bushwalking, loved her, you know, was fit. And it sounds to me like a doer. Then yeah, you know, everything she probably felt that she was as a person, how she identified herself, has been stolen away from her.
She felt
How's
exactly
that?
like she was a different person. She just, and in fact, that picture of her that you put up initially, she sent a WhatsApp round to. We had a girls group, me and my 4 daughters, and
Is that the one by herself there?
yeah, she said, this girl is gone, Rufi. She said, she's, you know, I'll never be that girl again. She was mourning the loss of her as she was, and with her sort of perfectionist personality, that not being able to function properly was unbearable for her. Not being able to use her brain properly, she said, I can't live like this. And eventually she couldn't. She struggled along in hospital for the mental health unit for I think she was admitted in March, and I think she struggled along in there trying to think about doing the therapies that they offered, because in there she was being treated as a depressed, as someone suffering from depression, and they medicated her and until she had the full medication load on over months, and she was taking the pills against her will. You know, she still found it hard to swallow anything. But it became clear after a while that wasn't what she was suffering from. It seemed to be a misdiagnosis. Even we could see the specialists were, but they once they decided that's what it was, they couldn't seem to find any other
So they
option,
didn't take
basically.
any of her other symptoms seriously. Anything else she was bringing up, they just put it down to depression.
Well, yeah, I think that's all. That's all they seem to have in their I don't know. I don't know why they. Well, I think they didn't know what to do about the other symptoms. That's the thing, and they seemed to actually ease off as she was suffering more from anxiety. A lot of the, I think they were backgrounded because everything else was so serious and so devastating. I think they were still there, but they weren't as in the front of her thoughts. She was struggling just with the everyday. Yes, and she was feeling alone, feeling let down by the medical fraternity,
Betrayed.
by the government, in that she was promised a safe sort of medication, basically, and they seemed to
But
die.
wouldn't you say though, okay, promise the safe thing and it turned out not to be safe, because this is happening to victims all over Australia, and there's thousands and thousands of them, that a lot of them just want acknowledgement. Okay,
Yeah.
yep, it's worked for some people. Some people don't have any injuries, but it's not stopping the spread. It's not doing any of this. And it's debilitating people. I mean, the CDC has just admitted that. They've admitted that, I think, yesterday or today. Yes, people are getting permanently disabled by these jabs. So the Australian government won't do that. They won't give their citizens that are their brothers and sisters and mothers. I mean, we're all one people. They're not giving them the acknowledgement that, okay, yeah, what you're suffering is real. We don't know what to do about it. We can join you and help you. We've got huge resources or something. But instead, you're just like, no, look, you're an embarrassment to the narrative. So
I
just
think
treat
that
it
was
like
it.
a fool.
Yeah, they didn't really want to be
Mm,
acknowledged, because that, I mean, they seem to be focused on rolling it all out and not really monitoring possible side effects as it went along. And I think Dr. Melissa McCann brought that forward when she gave a wonderful speech a few days ago.
yeah, we had her on last night. Did
Oh,
you? Yeah, we had we had Sharon on today. Was it Pfizer that she took, or AstraZeneca? Which one did she take?
it was Pfizer, the
We
second
had
one.
Sharon on today, Sharon Cousins. That show was just on. Um, and she's a researcher, works with a load of researchers. The first person in Australia to die of Pfizer died before Pfizer was even released in Australia. They must have got it overseas to come back here. and died of it. So even before they released it, they knew people were dying of it. It's well documented that she died of it, with these enormous list of symptoms. Yeah, so they knew. They knew. I mean, they didn't know that everybody would die of it, but they knew that they had a death before it even started. Okay. What happened after she left hospital?
Well, she never really left hospital, Michael. She
Okay.
came home a couple of times for the weekend, but she couldn't cope, and she was suicidal. She was a danger to herself. So she was admitted back to hospital, and in the end, she found a way, and she committed suicide on the 7th of July last year. So because she'd been, it was still a terrible shock and a tragedy. But she'd been, life was so miserable for her. That it was a blessed relief in a way for her. So, like I said, the woman who loved life so much had a blessed life. She not suddenly, but in those 9 months, whatever it was, that beautiful life had become a burden to her. She couldn't bear to be what she'd become. What I feel the COVID vaccine did to her body, and she took her exit. She made her exit.
How's her husband coping?
Oh, he's a very strong guy. He's completely devastated. They had a really genuinely happy marriage, and she was the only one for him, and the same for her.
They've been married for years, haven't they? About almost 30 years.
Yeah, I think that was getting along for that. And he's a wonderful guy. He's getting up and turning up and being with the family. He's being strong, but don't know that he'll ever get over this. It was so devastating to watch her deteriorate so, and to be so unhappy, and it was a tragic way to go out. And I
Does he
think
believe it's the jab?
yes, I think it was pretty obvious to everyone that was the trigger. Well, I don't know if it could ever be proved, because it's for anyone who saw what happened and saw the progress, the timeline, and she did take her own life in the end, but life was unbearable, and she was very concerned about a brain injury. And on reading an article about the people with long COVID just recently, a fellow who's had it for, I think, over a year now, 18 months now, he described exactly what Rachel had described to us, that she wasn't feeling just fuzzy. He was a guy who is a PhD and was used to using his brain in very complicated ways. And I think for recreation, he used to cook French sauces, so he liked a challenge. And he said, yes, I can remember that I could cook meals, but he said, I can't do the sequencing now. He said, so I can't even cook now, which was one of the things that Rachel couldn't do quite quickly. And he said a lot of people are talking about brain fog. That's one of the very common symptoms for people with the long COVID, which I think is very similar to the jab injuries.
It doesn't, I don't think the brain fog doesn't really give it the weight it does. Brain fog makes it like you woke up in the morning, you're a bit hungover, or you just, you haven't had a good night's sleep. But not being able to remember how to do things in sequence, that's more profound. I don't think
Well, that's
that.
what he said.
I know they call it brain fog. I know people call it, but I feel it's something
Stronger,
more
stronger
powerful than
than.
that. Yeah, yeah,
And in fact,
more
that's what he
devastating.
said. He said it's not just a fuzzy feeling. He said, I feel like I have an acquired brain injury. And that seemed to be more what Rachel was talking about too. And in fact, they went on to say in this article that they think that the action of the virus and could be creating, the spike protein could be creating little mini clots in the brain, which can't be
Yeah.
discerned on the current MRIs, etc. So maybe that's down the line. We'll find out exactly what was happening to these poor people.
How
So,
about her brothers and sisters? How are they coping?
oh well, they're all. We saw Rachel.
I'm taking it for granted that they're upset, but I'm just wondering because it's not just coping a sudden death; it's a death by a vaccine, by the whole, you know, and
Mm,
and the government's still pushing the jab. So how are they coping with all of that?
well, yeah, it's hard work. It's a hard gig grieving, and I think suicide adds that extra layer of confusion and guilt. Everybody tends to feel guilty after a suicide because you think of all those things that you could have done, perhaps, or didn't do, and um, the kids. Oh, I forgot to give Auntie Rach a kiss, or just all of those things. You feel, was there something that we missed, and what could we have done? And everyone, the whole family took part in trying to help her. And she was a big part of everyone's life because we're so close. So, and yeah, it's been very hard for all of us, but particularly her husband and two daughters, obviously,
Well, what about you?
and me. Yeah,
Seriously,
my
you're
green-eyed
alone.
girl. Yeah, I miss her every day, and it is a big loss.
Can I ask you something? Tell me, could you share something, a funny story about her, just you and her, or something that always reminds you something? It's you don't have to, of course, if you don't, but
No, no, she was. I used to love the way um, she had a really good sense of humor, quite a dry sense of humor, and um, she used to laugh till she snorted, which was hilarious. And she she would do that with her sisters, and it was always so lovely to hear them laughing together. So, um, yeah, it was it's a very sad way to go.
it's
Yeah.
tragic.
Mm.
It's tragic. It's what from where I'm looking, I don't see anything that the family could have done. I mean, this is you're not medical people, but the only thing I see here, and it's not just uh, uh, with Rachel, it's just being taken seriously by doctors that these symptoms are real. I know one of the last times I talked to Sally, I was going to see if I could see her recently. She was in the hospital. She had several fits in front of doctors. I mean, fits. She's never had fits before, seizures. I think there was 3 or 4 in a row she had. And they walked out, and one doctor sat in the bed and said to her, "You know, just suffering from anxiety." And this
Oh,
woman's a fit 50-year-old farmer. That's literally being last time I think she's getting better. I've got to go in contact. But she ended up in a wheelchair, exactly the same story, but different symptoms. But she'd held it together to them, but she said she just lost it in the hospital ward, of where there was other people suffering from the same thing. The doctors were telling them they've got anxiety. This is the betrayal.
it
Your
is
doctors. We
yeah,
need doctors to tell us the truth, but you also need to listen to us and decide, no, you don't have all these people with these strange illnesses we've never seen. They're not suffering from anxiety just because you're too scared to challenge the medical establishment that there's something wrong with this thing that you're sticking in everybody. There's something
yeah,
wrong,
and
So that the
yeah,
betrayal that I just wonder, and I hate to say this, but I think it needs to be said. I just wonder where she'd be if she'd been taken seriously by the medical establishment, and they'd actually, try to work together to try heal this, rather than just sticking her in a mental home and treating her like a depressive person, which obviously she was depressed because she was in so much distress.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think hers would have been a preventable death. I mean, her agony and death could have been prevented, because I think by the time she had her second Pfizer, there had been enough evidence regarding the side effects of the vaccines, so that they should have been pulled before then, and the parameters were there from historically. A certain number of reports come through of side effect injury. A certain number, which was fairly low, and they would pull the vaccines and then try and work out what was happening, whether it was actually caused by them. But those parameters were reached and were far, the injuries were far over them. I'm sure you talked to Melissa McCann last night about it. I didn't hear that one, but yeah, and just ignored. No one seemed to be monitoring them, or didn't have the will to monitor them. But so I just feel that
nothing's been done. Let's be honest. Autopsies aren't being done. They're not doing autopsies. They're just ignoring it. There is a moral weakness to many of them. In fact, we're in an extraordinary situation where some of the most respected doctors in the country, even in the world, are literally deregistered doctors.
That's right.
That's where we are.
They're not joining the narrative.
Extraordinary time in our history.
But also, I think maybe pressured as well. Maybe they've been had their jobs threatened too. Well, some of them are losing them. Yeah. It would be hard.
And with Melissa was on last night, and she was saying, I said to her, I said to her, because she was a pharmacist, and then she had kids, and then she went back to medical school. That's a huge journey to become a doctor, but she did it. And then so to risk it all losing away simply because she had doubts about the jab. I asked her, that must have been a massive decision. She said, not really. She said, I'm not in this job. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not in this job to hurt people. So I couldn't do it. So you have to really admire her courage, her spirituality. There was, are you a religious family?
No, not really. No one goes to church as such, but I think we're all spiritual in our own way. We believe there's a greater spirit, but no, we don't practice it as such. But just getting back to Melissa, I think she's a genuine Aussie hero. I think she's a heroine, to use an old-fashioned word. But
same with Dr. Oosterhouse, and Dr. Hobart and Dr. Borchos is in Colac. These, and there's many more. There's many more. All the AMPS doctors that are trying to set up a new system. There's and other people too, not just doctors. There are people fighting amongst us. But is there anything else that you'd like to say, maybe to the government or the medical establishment or the people?
Yeah, I just think I think I told you before, I've always been complacent when it's come to choosing who to vote for, because I've always felt that we'd eventually end up in good hands. I felt that we could trust our government and our medical system, but I don't have that faith anymore. I think we all need to get out there and listen, and read the fine print and speak up. I think we need to be on the ball now, because I think things are happening that that are quite scary. You know, things I'm not trusting anymore. I think we all need to just be a bit more thoughtful about things, and yeah, keep speaking up about it.
Maybe redefine our values, you know, especially for doctors, just do no harm, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. And I say that on behalf of everyone out there who is losing people and they're trying to get the courage to know what to do. And there's lots. And I admire your courage. I really do. I'm sorry we can't help more than this. I hope people will share this and you might encourage others to speak. Maybe if we get enough numbers speaking, we might reach the hearts of our politicians, our Prime Minister, that he might actually stop and actually go, okay, my people, and we are your people, Albo, my people have a real problem and they need help. And the first thing they need is acknowledgement. So yeah.
Thank you. And thanks for
I
having me.
Sorry?
I said thanks. Thanks for having me on to
Oh,
speak with you.
honest. I am going to have a big drink after this though, because it's been a pretty full on day. But this is her favorite singer. One of her favorite singers is Adele. We can't play Adele because it'll take us down, but we are allowed to play covers. I've got a lovely young woman who is going to sing a Bob Dylan cover and an Adele cover, and hopefully, if she's listening, she likes it. Apart from that, I wish you the best. I will be heading back onto the road in the next few weeks. So if I'm in that area, I might give you a buzz, might pop in for a cuppa without the
Yeah,
cameras.
been lovely and safe journey. Thank you, Michael.
And I wish my best for you and your family. I really do.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
You paid a terrible, terrible price. Yeah. Okay, everybody. This is, I'll just put up this before we go. This is the young, this is the young woman who'll be singing. And take care.
Thank you.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I could offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love. When the evening shadows and the stars appear and there is no one there to dry your tears, I could hold you for a million years to make you feel my love. Oh, I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I will never do you wrong. I've known it from the moment that we met. I've got no doubt in my mind where you belong. I'll go hungry, I'll go black and blue. I'll go crawling down the avenue. Oh no, there's nothing that I wouldn't do to make you feel my love. Oh. change are blowing wild and free. You ain't seen nothing like me, yeah. I could make you happy, make your dreams come true. Nothing I wouldn't do. Go to the ends of the earth for you, to make you feel my love. Oh, to make you feel my love.
Just a short pause that if you are feeling suicidal, I know they always say call Lifeline and do this, and you can find those numbers if you want. But my suggestion is if you can, don't. There is always a dawn. It's how the world is built. There is always a dawn. So I think it's tragedy. I think this is really tragic. But if you can, hold on. Good night.